So I just wanted to answer some of the questions that I get asked all the time about life coaching. And I hope this is helpful if you maybe already are a coach or thinking of becoming a life coach. It has really blossomed over the last 5 to 10 years. It's so funny when I got started in this work, and I'll share more about that later. It was sort of I remember when I was leaving my day job to start my own business to get into coaching, I was asked, what are you coaching? The beautiful thing is this work is so transformative. And so I want to answer some of the questions that I get all the time. And the first one really is around what makes for an excellent life coach? The first thing I want to just say, because if you're listening and you're thinking about this field or you're drawn to it, this is the most crucial thing I can say is that being an excellent life coach, it's not about having all the answers. In fact, it's a fallacy. It's this misnomer. And I'm going to touch upon it more because one of the questions that I get all the time, actually got recently, is, do I have to have my life all together? Do I have to have all the answers? So I'm going to give you a little preview, the answer, and it hopefully will help you to feel relieved because you actually not only don't have to have all the answers, that's not the kind of coaching that I teach, that I use, that I'm supported and have learned in and learned from. Because the truth is, and this is what I love about this work, to become an excellent life coach, number one, you've got to really believe in the power of humanity, of our ability, each of us, to be experts in our own life. And that starts, honestly, my friend, with you believing that about yourself and knowing that about yourself and doing that inner work, doing that inner transformative work, that work where you really spend time grounding in, learning how to trust yourself, to tune into your intuition, to know how to connect with your emotions, to learn how to hold space and not bypass your emotions. And I don't mean this from a place of you get graded or you're good at bad at it. It's more about making that decision, being willing, being open and courageous to say, I know that everything happening in my life is something that I can learn and grow from. And that's kind of the seedling of life coaching, is that belief in possibility, in growth, in expansion, in the ability to change, to transform. So if you're somebody that is craving more of that connection with yourself and others around transformation, around shifting your beliefs, around creating a life that really, really supports your heart's desires, your divine gifts, tune in, because life coaching definitely could be for you. So what makes an excellent life coach has nothing to do with being right or having all the right answers. What it does have to do with is having an extraordinary ability to be present. I really believe that the world is starving from much of what I'm going to share right now that is so powerful and pertinent and important in being a masterful life coach. And that is being able to listen at a very deep level. And what I mean by that is listening without having a response, listening without thinking about what you might say, listening without thinking of a comeback or a story or a way that you can necessarily relate. It's not that kind of listening. That is like a level 1 or a level 2 listening. We're talking about even deeper than a level 3 listening. It's listening from a space of grace, of presence, of openness, of non-judgment, and possibility. And that is something that most of us need training and experience in and practice, because most of us aren't trained to do that. Maybe someday that will happen in school. I hope so. But that deep listening is the cornerstone of being a masterful life coach. The other components are definitely your presence, your ability to hold space, to learn how to be with somebody and all of their emotions. And here's the thing, You can only go as deep. You can only take your client as far as you've gone with yourself. So this is why in the training that I teach, we do a lot of inner work. We do a lot of learning how to hold space for you, yourself, your own emotions, all of them. I actually always start with my favorite poem by Rumi. It's called The Guest House. And I don't have it memorized, but it basically says that, you know, we want to welcome all of the emotions. All of the emotions have a place at the table. So whether that's sadness or envy or despair or anger or joy or fear or whatever it is, those emotions, even though this is not the same as therapy or counseling, which is something I will get into, there is an aspect, a part of coaching, which we want to leave space for our emotions to be there and to receive the gifts from them, the messages from them. Our emotions have gifts to share. But often what we do is we bypass them, or we try to just get to the action item, the goal, and we miss the gold on the way to the goal. We miss the gold. The gold is in our different emotions. So being a masterful coach is learning how to hold space, not trying to fix somebody, not trying to make it different or change them. Really, really important. These are like the key aspects of being excellent and masterful in this work. One of the questions that I got is, do I need a coach training? So this is interesting because I know that the coaching world has just like blossomed and bloomed, which to me, I have to tell you, having been a coach and coaching for over a decade now, I have seen it grow in companies, in the government, in the military, within family systems, individuals. Like, coaching has grown because it works. For me, I actually went back. I had a background in psychology, and I didn't want to be a therapist. So I put a hold on that. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I was really, really eager to help people really access and actualize their potentiality, their gifts. If you're feeling that way, if you're kind of obsessed with doing that for yourself and for others, definitely lean in, listen up. What I ended up doing, I went back to school. I did not even realize that I was going to be doing this work. I was just really drawn through a coach that I had worked with that literally helped to change my life and deal with some really challenging moments. So I went back, I went to the Maryland University of Integrative Health, and it was a certification at the time. They became a university. They also have programs in acupuncture and herbal medicine and nutrition. And they started a health and wellness coaching program. And I did a 2-year master's degree and fell in love with this work, and became really clear and confident in this work. Now, I did not have any training in business or how to start a coaching business. So when I left my day job to begin my own business, it was like, well, what I'll tell you is many of my clients came from sharing this work and being willing and open to giving coaching sessions, to talk about my experience, to do workshops, from sharing through here, on YouTube, but also on a fantastic mindfulness app called Insight Timer, and then just in my community. So I do think having a training is important, because similar to becoming a therapist or counselor or social worker, you wouldn't just go to somebody who put that name out there but didn't have the training. This is healing and sacred work. It's different from counseling and therapy because you are not going to be delving into the past and like hanging out there, but you do kind of touch upon the past. And that is something I know I definitely teach, and I'm sure other programs teach. I do think a coach training is important. Also, because not only do you want to have the competencies, but you want to have the practice. You want to feel confident in your ability to really know how to use the competencies I was talking about in others that are so important. There are many different trainings out there. And I think what's wonderful is, find the one that works for you. I will share about mine towards the end of this video. And if it's of interest, I would love to have you. But if I'm not your cup of tea, go find a training that is for you, because I do think having a foundation, really having that space to learn, to do the inner work, to focus on your intuition, your inner wisdom, but learn how to do that with somebody else and hold space and help them to truly actualize their greatest gifts and potential, that it takes training. So I do think training is important. I think there are many to choose from. But I think just like you'd go to an acupuncturist that has studied the trade, and I know we're not using needles here, although I do talk about, your words in coaching are kind of like the needles in acupuncture. Your presence, your ability to hold space are actually really, really healing and important. So just like you'd go to an acupuncturist that's trained or a therapist that's trained or, a Reiki practitioner, I do think being a masterful coach and being one where you feel confident, charging for your services means that you get a training. So I do think a training is imperative. And I think a training that aligns for you and that is not just about you having the answers. That's not the way I was trained. I'll share more about why. But I do think having that foundation is important. So the second question that I was recently asked, do you need to have all the answers to coach? Like, do you have to have your life together? Okay, that's a really good question. So just take a sigh of relief, my friend. No, you do not have to have it all together. You do not have to have all the answers. Here's the reason why. You, as a masterful life coach, it is not about telling someone what to do. That is a misconception. At least the coaching, the way that I was trained, the way I also teach this work at Georgetown University, I've taught at my school before, you don't need to have the answers, because one of the shifts in this kind of work is that perspective is that the client that you're working with, we acknowledge and know intrinsically that they have the answer. So if I were working with you, you have the answer within you. You have this inner guidance. Now, sometimes it's hard to access, or maybe for other reasons, we've shut down or we've stopped listening or we're scared, right? Scared to tap into your inner guidance, to your intuition. That's a different story. And that's part of what makes coaching so powerful, is helping your client to learn how to do that for themselves and holding space. But no, you don't need the answers, because you're not going to be giving them answers. There might be insights, suggestions, very deep, powerful questions, but you are off the hook for giving advice and answers. You do not need to. In fact, I strongly recommend that you don't do that. And that's something I teach as well. The other thing, here's the other fallacy, and I just want to say, is you are never going to have your life all together, because, my friend, like me too, we're evolving. As human beings, right? Spiritual entities having a human experience, we're here to grow, to evolve, to expand. So you're not going to have your life all together. There might be moments, hopefully, doing that grounding work, feeling rooted, whatever those practices are for you, whether it's daily meditation. I know for me, that's like a non-negotiable. Yoga. I also love other works and readings and teachings from, Wayne Dyer, Yogananda, A Course in Miracles, whatever that might be. Those are daily rooting practices for me. And I do encourage you to have your own practices. So doing that beautiful sacred work, expanding, opening up to your potentiality, that is important. But that's never a done job. Not until we take our last breath and then move on to the next realm. So it's a fallacy that can keep people very stuck and feel like they can't coach. And I just want to say, do not buy into that. Do not at all. And if you are somebody who is already kind of in that direction, right? Like wanting to learn more about yourself and love yourself more and really tap into your heart desires. If people are already coming to you, like you used to say, I feel like I'm wearing a sign. If you feel like you're wearing a sign, like right here that says, come talk to me, come share your secrets with me. If you are already that person, people feel comfortable with you, then I'm going to just say right now that you are in the right place. And this is definitely something to look into. definitely consider life coaching. It is such a beautiful, healing, powerful way to help others. I think it's a sacred practice personally. And part of what you'll learn in your training is how to hold that presence and that space for somebody else, how to help them move, shift their mindset, shift their perspective, experience miracles, transformation. That's what I've been doing over a decade now. And it's beautiful. It's such beautiful work. Honestly, there are times when I have a new client and I'm just like so grateful because I know, having worked with many people, that I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be miraculous. And I see it every time. So if that feels like you're leaning in, it's one of the things I teach when I teach you how to trust your intuition. If you're like leaning in right now, I would definitely like make a note, come back to this. Life coaching is something to consider. You do not have to have your whole life together, though. That is never going to happen. I don't expect that for myself. My thing for me is I just want to be growing every day a little bit and loving myself a little bit more, because of course, the more I do that for me, the more my cup overflows, right? The more I'm able to do that for others, the more I can hold sacred space for me, the more that I can do that for others. The more you can do that, we can do that for ourselves, the more overflow we have to give. All right, so the third question here is, do you have an intention with coaching? And I think what she means is, do you have an intention like when you're coaching somebody or just in general? It's a really interesting question. So what I would say is, for me, one of my intentions on a macro level before I coach anybody, when I start my day, is I ask the divine source energy, I ask this higher loving intelligence to speak through me, to guide me, to allow me to be a mouthpiece for this beautiful, loving presence. I actually look to this higher power as my guide and my employer and the overarching inspiration for whatever is going to come through me. So I ask for that beautiful power and presence to come through in my listening, in my being, in what I'm hearing and seeing and what I'm saying. And before I start a session, I like to do something I will just share with you. Feels kind of intimate, but that's cool. Is I put my hand or my hands on my heart, and I usually just close my eyes and I just tune into my heart, and I ask to take a deep breath, and I ask to connect into my heart and the heart of my client. And I ask that our hearts be connected by the divine greater heart, the divine spirit heart, and that we are connected in that loving, graceful presence, and that may this session be a blessing for my client. I do the same thing for my training and for my students and for the mentor coaches and for all of what I do. I actually try to do that for my life and every day, but I really specifically like to tune in because how we show up is everything. Your presence is everything. This is something that is often, I also think, not taught, and it's something we go very deep into. Your healing presence, your sacred, ability to be in the moment, to listen without judgment, to be loving, to hear what's like, the iceberg, right? Like what's underneath the tip of the iceberg, what's under the rock, to be able to reflect, to listen at a level that most people are starving for. Don't underestimate the healing, miraculous power of that. It is so transformative. So I think I got to all my questions. This work is so transformative. And like I said in the beginning, I'm really grateful. I'm so grateful that this is the work that I've been doing in the world and have gotten to experience so many miracles. And I do want to share that I have my next training, my next coach certification training. It is coming up in March. And this will actually be the 11th cohort. I've had students from all over the world. There's a lot more information, and experiences, and you can read about their testimonials and what they've gone through in this program. It is a program that I have certainly created from my heart and from my training and from the belief that we all have this beautiful expertise within us, this beautiful wisdom and divine life purpose. And it's hard to get to that ourselves individually. I have my own coach, and I've just found this work is so life-changing. So, it will certainly help you to develop your own inner champion. I always say it's like going from having that inner critic, like talking all the time, to having your inner champion you, cheerlead you on. So if you're interested to learn more, just go to my website, which is juliereisler.com. And then you should see a tab that says certification, and then you can read. And if this speaks to you, it is an intimate cohort, and I keep it on the smaller side. So if this aligns for you, if you're like feeling a soul heck yes, then I would love to have you in it and love to work with you. And if not, I just wish you blessings on your life coaching path. You can always ask me questions here. I will be sharing more tips and videos and information, especially as it relates to life coaching, to designing your best life, to healing, to your energy, to your intuition, all the things related to mindset and consciousness. These are the areas that I really believe are going to help us individually and help shift the collective in this world. So it's so good to be here with you, my friend. I love you. And please let me know if you have any questions at all. And as always, may you continue to listen to your own inner heart and guidance and wisdom to be your Youest you. And any questions, leave them below.